we have this box, and it's sort of hot. It looks sort of like a parable, but not really. It's got a lid to it. Let's open it up and see what we've got inside. Lots of hot stuff in here. Almost like it's on fire or something. Wonder what this could be. It's hot, I know that. Ooh. Well, there isn't anything else in our box to help us get ready for the story. So let's just begin. Once, there was a great tower. Everyone working on the tower spoke the same language, and they all worked together as they built the tower. But as the tower grew taller and taller, the people working on it began to talk in different ways. They wanted the tower to reach up to heaven. And they grew so proud of themselves that they began to think that they were great builders, even greater than God. And the noise replaced their talking. It made no sense at all, and people couldn't understand each other, and it just made a great, big, loud sound, and it just sounded like they were babbling. Eventually, the tower fell over, and that's why it was called the Tower of Babel. The language of the people on earth was shattered and broken, just like the tower, broken into a lot of different pieces. Each one was still beautiful, but it was only a piece of the old way that they had of talking together. A lot of years passed from that time when the Tower of Babel fell. Thousands upon thousands of years. Jesus was born. And he lived. And he did his work. And then he died on the cross. But that was not the end of the story. because somehow he was still with the people around him, just as he is with us today. They kept seeing him places, and they couldn't let him go. And then one day, something amazing happened. The disciples were in Jerusalem. Here we have Peter, John, James, Andrew, Philip, Bartholomew, Matthew, Thomas, James the Less, Simon, and Jude, who was also called Thaddeus. Now there are only 11 there because Judas had already died. Jesus came and he took the disciples out of the city of Jerusalem to a place called Olivet. And when they were there, Jesus rose up from Olivet. And soon, the Holy Spirit would come. The disciples went back to Jerusalem. And they went to the upper room. And with God's help, when they were there, they decided that Matthias would be the person who would take Judas's place. On Sunday, they were again together, and suddenly there was this great sound like a rushing wind. And it came upon them. It was the Holy Spirit. They became so full of its power that they seemed to be on fire. Their tongues were burning in their mouths, and they ran out into the streets as fast as they could to tell everybody what had happened. While they were out there, there were many people there who spoke in a lot of different languages. They couldn't understand each other, but all of a sudden, they could understand each other. Everyone could see that the 12 had come close to God, and that God had come down and become close to them in a new way. The disciples had become apostles. And they went out into the world to tell the story of God's love and the stories of Jesus. That day was the first day of the Christian Pentecost. But that's not the end of the story. because it's still happening. Whenever people have the courage and the power to tell the story, Pentecost is still happening. It's like fire. Now I wonder which part of this story you like the best. I wonder which part of this story might be the most important. I wonder where you are in this story, or what part of this story might be about you. I wonder if there's any part of this story we could leave out and still have enough story, have all the story that we need. I wonder if you have ever come close to something like this. I wonder if there's anything in our church that reminds you of this. And lastly, I wonder what your work today might be as you reflect on this story. Okay, so before you start your work, I want to show you the symbols. Right there we have the symbol for Peter. Here is the symbol for James. It's 3 shells. And Peter was a cross, an upside down cross with keys. Here is the symbol for John. It's a chalice with a snake wrapped around it. Here is the symbol for Andrew. It's a blue background with a sideways cross on it. Here is the symbol for Peter. It's also a cross with 2 shells on either side of it. Here's the symbol for Bartholomew. It is 3 knives. Here's the symbol for Matthew. It's 3 bags of coins, money. Here is a symbol for Thomas. It's a spear going through a square, a builder's square. Here is a symbol for James the Less, and it appears to be a saw that men would take and move back and forth. This is the symbol for Simon, and it is a fish on top of a book. Here's the symbol for Jude, who was also known as Thaddeus, and it's a sailing ship. And last we have the symbol for Matthias, which is also a knife of some sort on top of scrolls. Again, we have Matthew, James, John, Andrew, Philip, Bartholomew, Matthew, Thomas, James the Less, Simon, Jude, also known as Thaddeus, and Matthias.